I was rejected on a blind date, then a woman asked, "Will you be my husband?" The moment she stood up, glanced at her phone, and walked out of the restaurant without finishing her meal, I knew something inside me had broken. The blind date I had spent weeks preparing for was over before it had even begun. People at nearby tables pretended not to stare, but I could feel their eyes on me. The empty chair across from me felt heavier than 1,000 pounds. I sat there alone under the warm restaurant lights, wondering how someone could decide in less than 20 minutes that another person wasn't worth knowing. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that life can change when we least expect it, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Bright Hearts for more emotional and inspiring stories. At 34 years old, I never imagined my life would look like this. Most of my friends were married, raising children, and building families. Meanwhile, I spent my evenings returning to a quiet apartment where silence greeted me every night. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't exceptionally handsome. I was just an ordinary man trying to build an honest life. I worked as a high school teacher, cared for my aging mother, and believed that being kind still mattered in this world. But dating had never been easy for me. Over the years, I experienced enough disappointments to make anyone question themselves. Some women thought I was too quiet. Others felt my career wasn't ambitious enough. A few simply stopped responding after 1 or 2 conversations. Each rejection felt small on its own, but together they slowly chipped away at my confidence. When my cousin suggested setting me up on a blind date, I almost refused. Yet something inside me whispered that maybe this time would be different. Maybe this would finally be the beginning of the life I had always hoped for. I bought a new shirt. I got a haircut. I arrived early and rehearsed conversation topics in my head. Then everything fell apart. The woman arrived 20 minutes late. She barely smiled. During dinner, she spent more time looking at her phone than speaking to me. Every answer she gave was short and distant. Finally, after receiving a message, she looked at me and politely said she had to leave. No explanation. No apology. Nothing. Just like that, she was gone. I stared at the untouched dessert we had ordered. Embarrassment burned through me. I wondered if there was something visibly wrong with me. Maybe everyone else could see a flaw that I couldn't. The waiter approached carefully, offering sympathy through a gentle smile. I paid the bill and sat there for a few more minutes, gathering enough strength to leave. That was when something unexpected happened. A woman from a nearby table stood up and began walking toward me. At first, I assumed she needed directions or wanted to ask about the empty seat. Instead, she stopped beside my table and looked at me with a strange mixture of kindness and determination. She introduced herself as Emma. I noticed she seemed nervous, almost as nervous as I felt. She told me she had accidentally witnessed what happened. Normally, she would never approach a stranger, but something compelled her to come over. We talked for a few minutes. Then those few minutes turned into an hour. For the first time in years, I felt completely comfortable around someone. There was no pressure, no pretending, no trying to impress each other. We simply talked. She spoke about her work at a local hospital. I told her stories about my students. We laughed about awkward first dates and shared memories of childhood dreams. When the restaurant finally began closing, neither of us wanted the conversation to end. We exchanged numbers. As I drove home that night, I couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in a long time, rejection no longer felt like the most important thing that had happened. Over the next several months, Emma and I grew closer. Our relationship wasn't built on grand romantic gestures. Instead, it grew through ordinary moments that somehow felt extraordinary. She brought soup when I got sick. I helped her move into a new apartment. We spent weekends exploring small towns, trying local coffee shops, and talking about everything from family struggles to future dreams. For the first time, I felt seen. Not judged. Not compared. Seen. Emma understood things about me that few people ever had. She knew about my insecurities and never used them against me. She knew my fears and encouraged me to face them. Around her, I felt like I could finally stop pretending to be someone else. Then life tested us. One winter evening, my mother suffered a severe stroke. Everything changed overnight. Hospital visits replaced weekend adventures. Medical bills began piling up. Sleepless nights became normal. Fear followed me everywhere. Many relationships would have crumbled under that kind of pressure. Ours became stronger. Emma stood beside me every step of the way. She spent hours sitting with my mother in the hospital. She helped coordinate appointments. She encouraged me when exhaustion threatened to overwhelm me. There were nights when I sat in my car after visiting the hospital and cried because I felt completely helpless. Emma never tried to fix everything. She simply stayed. Sometimes the greatest form of love isn't solving someone's problems. It's refusing to leave when those problems become difficult. Months passed. My mother's recovery was slow but steady. Life gradually settled into a new rhythm. One evening, after visiting my mother, Emma asked if I wanted to walk through a nearby park. The sun was setting. The sky glowed with shades of orange and gold. We walked quietly along a small path lined with trees. Then she stopped. Her eyes filled with tears. For a moment, I worried something was wrong. Instead, she smiled. The kind of smile that changes a person's life forever. She told me that watching how I cared for my mother had shown her the kind of man I truly was. She said kindness wasn't something I performed when people were watching. It was who I was when life became difficult. Then she reached into her bag. My heart nearly stopped. She pulled out a small box. I stared at it in complete disbelief. Before I could understand what was happening, she looked directly into my eyes and asked the question I never expected to hear. She asked if I would be her husband. For several seconds, I couldn't speak. I thought about the restaurant. I thought about the rejection. I thought about all the lonely nights when I believed love simply wasn't meant for me. And suddenly I understood something important. Sometimes the doors that close in our lives aren't punishments. They're redirections. If that blind date had gone well, I might never have met Emma. If I hadn't experienced rejection, I might not have been sitting in that exact seat at that exact moment. The very event that felt like one of my worst failures had quietly led me toward the greatest blessing of my life. With tears streaming down my face, I said yes. Nearby strangers began applauding. The setting sun painted the world in gold. And for the first time, everything made sense. Before we reach the ending, I have a special request for everyone watching. Please comment the words, "Second chances are real," if you believe that life can surprise us in beautiful ways when we least expect it. Today, Emma and I have been married for 6 years. My mother often says Emma didn't just become my wife, she became part of our family's healing. Whenever people ask how we met, they expect a romantic story filled with perfect timing and magical circumstances. Instead, I tell them the truth. Our story began with rejection. It began with disappointment. It began with a moment that felt like failure. But sometimes life hides its greatest gifts inside its most painful moments. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share this video with someone who may be struggling through a difficult season, and subscribe to Bright Hearts. Your support helps spread stories of hope, resilience, and love to people who need them most. Because the truth is simple, one disappointing day does not define your future. One rejection does not determine your worth. And sometimes, when it feels like life is saying no, it may actually be guiding you toward a far greater yes. And somewhere out there, your unexpected blessing may already be walking toward you.